Ever been haunted by thoughts of someone? It's like their memory has carved out a permanent home in your mind, turning over every waking moment, and even some of those deep in sleep, with reflections, what-ifs, and remembered conversations. This isn't your typical stroll down memory lane, where nostalgia sweetly colors the past. No, this is more intense, more persistent. You find yourself dissecting every interaction, word by word, looking for meanings that might not even be there. Why do these thoughts cling so stubbornly, refusing to be shaken off? Understanding why someone is always on your mind requires more than a casual glance at your feelings. It demands a deep dive into the often unseen forces driving our emotions and thoughts. Carl Jung, the Swiss psychiatrist, had a profound take on this. He believed that the people who inhabit our thoughts are there for a reason. They are mirrors reflecting parts of ourselves that are longing for attention or transformation. In the spirit of Stoicism, we are reminded that every external event is an opportunity for internal growth. The Stoics would advise us not to shy away from these persistent thoughts, but to engage with them, to question their origin, and to decipher what they reveal about our deepest desires and fears. They teach us that self-awareness is the first step towards mastery over one's life. As Marcus Aurelius, a Stoic himself, once said, "Look within. Within is the fountain of good, and it will ever bubble up if thou wilt ever dig." So, as we explore why you can't stop thinking about someone, consider this an invitation to a journey inward, a challenge to confront and perhaps embrace aspects of yourself that have been ignored or suppressed. This exploration is not just about them, it's about you, your mind, and your path to greater understanding and serenity. What truths might these relentless thoughts unveil? How can they guide us toward becoming more composed, reflective, and fulfilled individuals? Let's find out together. The intriguing world of psychological echoes. Have you ever noticed how certain people seem to leave an imprint on your mind, like footprints on a beach that the tide refuses to wash away? It's not just random or meaningless. There's a reason their presence lingers in your thoughts, even when you're not trying to focus on them. Psychologists like Carl Jung have long explored this phenomenon, suggesting that these recurring thoughts are not about the person themselves, but about what they awaken within us. It's as if your mind is trying to tell you something, using this person as the messenger. The Stoics would urge us to approach this with curiosity rather than resistance. To them, every situation, every thought, is an opportunity to practice clarity and control. Epictetus, one of the great Stoic philosophers, often reminded his students to ask, "What is within my power here?" When someone dominates your thoughts, it's not about fighting the thoughts away, but understanding their purpose. The Stoics would advise us to see these moments not as distractions, but as tools for self-examination and growth. Jung, similarly, believed these recurring thoughts were psychological echoes. The person you can't stop thinking about might have stirred something in your unconscious, a hidden fear, an unresolved desire, or even an aspect of yourself you've ignored. It's as if your mind is replaying their presence like a movie clip, asking you to analyze what they symbolize in your personal story. The Stoics would call this an exercise in self-discipline, urging us to focus not on the external figure, but on the internal reaction they provoke. Because, in the end, the power isn't in the person. It's in what we allow that person to reveal about us. So, when your thoughts keep circling back to someone, think of it as a puzzle rather than a problem. Instead of asking, "Why can't I stop thinking about them?" ask, "What are these thoughts trying to teach me?" Both Jungian psychology and Stoic philosophy point us toward the same answer. Understanding these mental echoes is not about them, It's about uncovering the layers of yourself that have been waiting for your attention. And maybe, just maybe, these echoes are leading you towards something transformative. Why your mind won't let go. The secrets of the unconscious. Think of your mind as a vast ocean. The surface is what you're aware of, your daily thoughts, decisions, and the chatter of your inner voice. But beneath that, in the hidden depths, lies something far more expansive and mysterious, your unconscious mind. This is where much of the real action happens, shaping your behavior, emotions, and even the people who seem to take up residence in your thoughts. Carl Jung described this unconscious realm as a treasure trove of repressed desires, forgotten memories, and archetypal forces. It's not random, it's where your mind keeps the parts of yourself that you haven't yet come to terms with. Now, here's where it gets interesting. When someone keeps appearing in your thoughts, it's often not about them at all. It's about what they've stirred up in those hidden depths. Maybe they remind you of something unresolved, a memory you've buried, or a quality in yourself that you haven't fully embraced. The Stoics would see this as a powerful opportunity for growth. To them, understanding what's within is the key to mastering what's without. Marcus Aurelius, the great Stoic emperor, urged us to dig within. Therein lies the wellspring of good. So, what does it mean when someone triggers this hidden part of you? It could be that they symbolize something your unconscious wants you to face. Perhaps they remind you of a version of yourself you've outgrown, or maybe they embody a trait you admire but haven't developed yet. For example, if you find yourself fixated on someone's confidence, it could be because deep down, you want to cultivate more of that in your own life. On the flip side, if their arrogance irritates you, it might reflect a part of yourself you're struggling to accept. The Stoics believed in confronting life's challenges with courage and reason, and this includes the challenges within our own minds. Instead of avoiding these persistent thoughts, they would encourage us to explore them. What is your mind trying to tell you? Is it asking you to heal an old wound, to develop a new strength, or to let go of something that no longer serves you? By paying attention to these signals from the unconscious, you can start to bring clarity and direction to your life. This process of self-discovery isn't always easy, but it's incredibly rewarding. The more you understand your unconscious mind, the less power it has to control you without your awareness. And the Stoics remind us that true freedom comes not from controlling external events, but from mastering ourselves. The person lingering in your thoughts isn't there to haunt you, they're there to guide you, to help you uncover the hidden treasures of your own mind. The question is, are you willing to dive beneath the surface to find them? Meet your shadow, the hidden side of who you are. Have you ever noticed how certain people seem to trigger something deep inside you, almost as if they're holding up a mirror you'd rather avoid? Maybe you admire their confidence but feel uneasy about your own self-doubt. Or perhaps their arrogance grates on you, yet a part of you wonders if that's a trait you've repressed in yourself. Carl Jung called this phenomenon the shadow self, the parts of us we hide, deny, or ignore because they don't fit the image we want to project. And more often than not, the people who linger in our thoughts are messengers from this hidden part of ourselves. The shadow isn't something inherently bad or shameful. It's simply the aspects of your personality that you've pushed into the background, either because society, upbringing, or your own ideals told you they didn't belong. Maybe you were taught that being assertive was rude, so you buried your natural boldness. Or you decided early on that vulnerability was a weakness, so you armored up and ignored that side of yourself. But the shadow doesn't disappear just because you've turned your back on it. It waits, and it speaks to you in subtle, often uncomfortable ways. In Stoic terms, the shadow aligns with the idea that true wisdom comes from self-examination and embracing all aspects of our nature. The Stoics believed in amor fati, loving one's fate, including the parts of yourself you might wish were different. They teach us that resisting or ignoring parts of who we are only creates tension, whereas understanding and accepting those parts leads to harmony and growth. Marcus Aurelius wrote, "The impediment to action advances action. What stands in the way becomes the way." In the same vein, the shadow isn't an obstacle, it's a guide. When someone occupies your thoughts, they might be reflecting a part of your shadow that's begging for attention. For instance, if you're drawn to someone's creativity, it could be that your own creative side is yearning for expression. If someone's impatience irritates you, it might be because you're uncomfortable with your own occasional lack of patience. These reactions aren't random. They're signals from your unconscious mind nudging you toward greater self-awareness. The key is not to fear the shadow, but to explore it. Jung believed that making the unconscious conscious was the path to enlightenment. The Stoics would agree, encouraging us to look within and approach ourselves with honesty and courage. Instead of judging these recurring thoughts about someone, ask yourself, what part of me are they reflecting? What lesson is this shadow trying to teach me? One way to start is by journaling about these feelings. Write about the person who won't leave your mind and the qualities they represent, both good and bad. Notice any patterns that emerge. Another powerful tool is mindfulness. When these thoughts arise, instead of dismissing them, sit with them. Observe how they make you feel and what they might be pointing to in your own life. This practice of self-inquiry, rooted in both Jungian psychology and Stoicism, can transform uncomfortable feelings into powerful insights. It's important to remember that the shadow isn't a flaw, it's a part of you that holds immense potential. By integrating your shadow, you become a more complete, authentic version of yourself. The Stoics remind us that our growth lies not in avoiding discomfort, but in leaning into it. Seneca once said, "No man can live a happy life, or even a supportable life, without the study of wisdom." Understanding your shadow is part of that wisdom. It's the study of yourself. Anima and animus, the inner forces shaping your thoughts. Have you ever felt inexplicably drawn to someone, as though they held a missing piece of your own puzzle? Or perhaps you've been captivated by their energy, the way they express themselves, or the qualities they seem to effortlessly embody. According to Carl Jung, this magnetic pull could be the work of the anima and animus, the symbolic representations of the feminine and masculine aspects of our psyche. These archetypes aren't tied to gender in a strict sense, but represent the balance of qualities within all of us: sensitivity and logic, creativity and strength, intuition and rationality. Jung believed that the anima, the inner feminine, and animus, the inner masculine, are essential for achieving wholeness. They serve as bridges to our unconscious, inviting us to integrate qualities we might lack or suppress. For example, if a man is deeply rational but struggles with emotional openness, the anima might manifest in his psyche, drawing him toward individuals who embody compassion and intuition. Similarly, if a woman is highly nurturing but hesitant to assert herself, the animus might show up in the form of an attraction to confidence and decisiveness in others. The Stoics didn't explicitly speak of anima and animus, but their teachings align with the idea of inner balance. They believed that to live a virtuous life, one must cultivate harmony between seemingly opposing forces: reason and emotion, action and reflection. Marcus Aurelius wrote, "If it is not right, do not do it. If it is not true, do not say it." This call for clarity and intentionality mirrors Jung's idea of integrating these inner archetypes. ensuring that our actions are guided by both heart and mind. So, why does this matter when someone is always on your mind? Jung suggested that our psyche often projects the anima or animus onto others, especially when we're drawn to them. For example, you might see someone as emotionally deep or intellectually stimulating, but in reality, you're responding to a part of yourself they bring to the surface. It's not just about them, it's about what they awaken within you. The Stoics would encourage us to approach these feelings with curiosity rather than attachment, asking, "What is this teaching me about myself?" This projection can create both beauty and challenge. On the one hand, it can help us identify qualities we need to cultivate. On the other hand, it can lead to illusions. When we project, we might idealize someone, seeing them not as they truly are, but as the embodiment of our unconscious desires. This can lead to feelings of obsession, disappointment, or confusion when the reality doesn't match our expectations. The Stoics would remind us here to focus on what is within our control, our interpretation of the situation and our response to it. Recognizing the role of anima and animus in our relationships isn't about dismissing attraction or connection. It's about deepening our understanding of it. When someone occupies your thoughts, ask yourself what qualities they embody that resonate so strongly. Are they showing you something you long to develop in yourself? Or are they reflecting a part of you that you've neglected? These questions, approached with the Stoic principles of self-reflection and rational detachment, can transform what feels like emotional chaos into a path of personal growth. Projection, your personal psychological cinema. Have you ever caught yourself thinking that someone is absolutely amazing, or on the flip side, utterly infuriating, and wondered why you feel so strongly about them? Chances are, your mind is playing a fascinating trick on you, one that Carl Jung called projection. It's as if you're a filmmaker and the people around you are actors in a movie you're directing. But here's the catch. The script they're following is written by your unconscious mind, not theirs. Projection happens when we take parts of ourselves, our desires, fears, or traits, and assign them to someone else, often without realizing it. Let's say you admire someone for their ambition. Maybe they remind you of a quality you wish you could cultivate in yourself. Or maybe they reflect a trait you already have but don't fully recognize. On the other hand, if you're irritated by someone's arrogance, it might be because you struggle with that same tendency or fear being perceived that way. The Stoics would tell us to pause and reflect when we feel these strong emotions. Marcus Aurelius often reminded himself, if someone else's fault disturbs you, it's your own fault you're allowing it. In the context of projection, this means stepping back and asking, what is this really about? Is my reaction to this person revealing something about myself? This practice isn't about blame, it's about clarity. The Stoics understood that self-awareness is the key to navigating life with wisdom and composure. What makes projection so tricky is that it feels incredibly real. When you're projecting, it's easy to mistake your feelings as objective truths about the other person. You might think, they're so inspiring, or they're so annoying, without realizing these judgments are more about you than them. Jung believed that by recognizing our projections, we could reclaim these parts of ourselves and grow as individuals. It's not about changing how you see others. It's about changing how you see yourself. So, how do we spot our projections? Start by paying attention to emotional extremes. When someone makes a strong impression, whether positive or negative, it's worth exploring why. Ask yourself, what specifically about them is triggering this reaction? If it's admiration, what qualities do they embody that you aspire to? If it's irritation, could they be reflecting something you're avoiding in yourself? The Stoics would encourage this kind of examination. reminding us that every thought and emotion is a chance to better understand ourselves. Projection isn't a flaw, it's a tool. It shines a light on the parts of ourselves that need attention, offering an opportunity for growth. The Stoics believed in facing life's challenges with courage and wisdom, and projection is no exception. By owning these parts of ourselves, whether they're strengths we've neglected or weaknesses we've denied, we take a step closer to becoming the best version of ourselves. Synchronicity, when the universe speaks through coincidence. Have you ever thought about someone only to have them call or text you moments later? Or maybe you've been reflecting on a particular person, and then, out of nowhere, you bump into them at the most unexpected place. These moments feel uncanny, almost as if the universe is winking at you. Carl Jung called this phenomenon synchronicity, a meaningful coincidence that seems to defy logic. It's not about random chance, it's about deeper connections between your inner world and the events unfolding around you. Jung believed that synchronicity is a way the unconscious mind communicates with us, linking our thoughts to external events in ways that feel significant. It's as though the world outside is mirroring something happening inside. You might think it's all in your head, but that's precisely the point. It is in your head, but it's also real, inviting you to pay attention to what your mind is trying to tell you. For the Stoics, such moments wouldn't be dismissed as mere coincidence either. They had a concept called logos, the idea that the universe is rational and ordered, governed by a kind of divine intelligence. When something feels too perfectly timed to be random, the Stoics would see it as an opportunity to reflect on the interconnectedness of all things and what this moment might teach you about your path. Let's say you've been dwelling on unresolved feelings about someone, and suddenly they show up in a way you didn't expect. Maybe it's a chance encounter, or you hear their name mentioned in a conversation. These moments aren't just curious, they're clues. Jung would suggest they point to something you've been ignoring or avoiding. The Stoics, in turn, would ask you to examine your reaction. Why does this feel so important? What can I learn from this? But synchronicity isn't always about dramatic, life-altering moments. Sometimes it's subtle. A pattern you notice, a phrase that keeps repeating in conversations, or even a song that seems to echo your thoughts. The key is to approach these moments with curiosity rather than dismissing them. Jung saw synchronicity as an invitation to dig deeper, to explore the meaning behind the connection. The Stoics would encourage the same, reminding us that everything, no matter how small, can contribute to our understanding if we're paying attention. What's important is not to get caught up in trying to explain why these events happen, but to focus on what they mean to you. Are they highlighting something unresolved in your life? Are they nudging you toward a decision you've been hesitating to make? The Stoics would remind you that the only thing within your control is how you interpret these moments. As Marcus Aurelius said, everything that happens is either endurable or tolerable if you view it with the right mindset. Synchronicity teaches us that life is full of connections waiting to be recognized. It's a call to be present, to notice the patterns in our lives, and to see beyond the surface. When someone's presence in your thoughts coincides with external events, it's not necessarily a sign of fate in the romanticized sense, but it is a reminder to look inward and reflect. Jung would argue that these moments are bridges between the conscious and unconscious mind. The Stoics would see them as part of the larger order of the universe, offering opportunities for growth and wisdom. So the next time something synchronistic happens, resist the urge to brush it off as a fluke. Instead, pause and ask, what is this trying to tell me? How can I use this moment to better understand myself and my place in the world? These moments, however fleeting, are a chance to step back, connect the dots, and realign with your values and purpose. And maybe, just maybe, they'll lead you to see the world and yourself in a whole new light. Decoding your thoughts. What your thoughts are trying to tell you. Our thoughts are like whispers from a deeper part of ourselves, often subtle but persistent, nudging us to pay attention. When someone occupies your mind, appearing over and over again, it's easy to get stuck wondering about them, but the real question is, what are these thoughts trying to tell you about yourself? Carl Jung believed that these recurring thoughts were never random. They were clues from your unconscious, asking you to reflect, explore, and grow. It's not about figuring out the other person. It's about decoding the message your mind is sending. The Stoics would approach this from a similar perspective. They believed in the power of examining our thoughts, not as passive observers, but as active participants in shaping our inner world. Marcus Aurelius often reminded himself to look inward, writing, "Dig within. Within is the wellspring of good." When someone lingers in your thoughts, it's an invitation to dig, to explore what emotions they bring up, what they represent, and why they matter to you right now. Start with reflection. What feelings arise when you think about this person? Is it admiration, frustration, a sense of longing? These emotions are like breadcrumbs leading you to deeper insights. For instance, admiration might point to qualities you want to cultivate in yourself. Frustration might highlight traits you're struggling to accept in others or in yourself. The Stoics teach us not to judge these emotions as good or bad, but to observe them as they are, using them as tools for self-understanding. Once you've identified the emotions, ask yourself what they reveal about your current state of mind. Are you feeling stuck in some area of your life? Is there a part of you that feels unfulfilled? Often, the people who occupy our thoughts mirror something we're wrestling with internally. Maybe their confidence reminds you of your own doubts, or their creativity stirs a desire to reignite your own passions. This is where the work begins. Not in analyzing their actions, but in understanding what they represent within you. The Stoics emphasize the importance of aligning our actions with our values. If these thoughts are pointing to an unmet desire or unresolved issue, take it as an opportunity to act. If someone's kindness inspires you, how can you bring more kindness into your life? If their success stirs envy, use it as motivation to focus on your own goals. Epictetus would remind us that while we can't control other people, we can control how we respond to our thoughts about them. But self-discovery doesn't stop at introspection. It's about transformation. Jung believed that bringing the unconscious into the light allowed us to integrate all parts of ourselves, becoming more whole. The Stoics would agree, teaching that self-awareness is the foundation of a virtuous and fulfilling life. By decoding these recurring thoughts, you're not just uncovering hidden parts of yourself, you're creating a roadmap for growth, moving closer to the person you're meant to be. This process isn't about quick fixes or easy answers. It's about patience and curiosity, treating your thoughts as valuable messengers rather than distractions. Each time someone occupies your mind, see it as an opportunity, not to obsess over them, but to deepen your understanding of yourself. And as you practice this, you'll find that even the most perplexing thoughts can lead to clarity, growth, and a deeper sense of inner peace. The Stoics would say that this is the essence of a life well lived, turning every experience, even the seemingly random ones, into a step toward wisdom.